complex systems. Complex systems. I've been talking to myself again. Second time. All right. Nicsmas 2021. Directions for acting like an adult or don't act like an asshole. And we are at halftime. Halftime. Anyone else having a hard time defining what you want? Yeah, you're going to. But think about this before I get into this, okay? Think about this. If you're having a hard time defining what you want, you're sitting down thinking about, this is what I want. I can't define it. Then what the hell have you been doing the last 10 years? Serious question. I'm guilty of it too. You just been rowing around, expending energy, not knowing. So everybody has this bias towards positive action. Figuring out what you want is an action. You're so busy trying to show progress to other people, right? Checkers versus chess. Sitting down and figuring out what you want. If it takes you 3 months, that is productive. People might go, oh, he just sits on the couch and does nothing. What a bum. And somehow you think that's better than just rowing around in circles. There actually is a way. I'll show you a way to help kind of figure out what you want. I derived it straight from the CCA program and Randy Massigo, which we'll talk about. My goals are $20K per month by October 1st, 2022. I'm going to try out the Certainty app. That is missing the point, but that's okay. We'll talk about that later. $20,000 a month is not a goal. I mean, it could help you reach your goals, right? But if your goal is I want X amount of dollars a month, more than likely, in my opinion, in my experience, you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to survive. What does $20,000 a month do for you? If in your head you're saying, well, because it's $20,000 a month, I can save this much, and in 10 years I'll be able to do this, and the real goal is to be able to do this in 10 years. It's not $20,000 a month. You see how much time and effort we just waste with no clarity at all? So let's go through... We'll get into the 6-word updates shortly. I want to talk a little bit about mitigating emotional valleys here, okay? Here's what we know, because this is what's coming up, and I'm just sharing what comes up. As we get into Nicsmas, I just start sharing the things that come up that were unexpected. Boom, 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 yeah. And I'll address some of these comments here. What we know, we talked about peaks and valleys, right? We know on either side of a peak is always a valley. Okay. We also know that humans are not good at recognizing that this valley, I'm in a bad place, but it's better than I was last time I was in a bad place. We're not good at that. We should try to avoid being in that position as much as possible, because even though on paper we're trending up, it's very, very difficult. Now, the higher this peak is, the more difficult it is to keep perspective about this valley. On the flip side, if you are selling people, right, there's a honeymoon phase. So even if you're selling your spouse, the more effort you go into creating an emotional high, right, the worse position you're going to put yourself in later. Even if this position is better than the one you were in previously, we know that what goes up must come down. We also know that what goes down does not always come back up. If you don't believe me, ask anybody that lost all their money in the stock market or real estate crash or had a honeymoon phase in the relationship and then it went to shit and never recovered. What goes up always comes down. What goes down does not always come up. It makes a whole lot of sense to me to stop putting resources into trying to make higher highs, especially emotionally, because it's the emotional ones that we lose all sense of logic, reason, right? Logic and reason. So just an example, a lot of people will put a ton of time and effort right here to make a sale. This is the sale, emotional high. You're going to have this and this big promise and that big promise and this big promise. Here's a sales call. I'm gonna sell you this beautiful aspirational future. Here's bonus 1, bonus 2, bonus 3, bonus 4, bonus 5. They make the sale. And then even if the product is great, we know what goes up is coming down. So even though the prospect is at a better place here than they were when they started, that is not what they feel. They feel that they're in a worse place here than they were yesterday. This is called buyer's remorse. So what I do is I use as little as possible to sell. If you know me, you know that. Right? You ever heard me really try to sell you on anything? I'd rather show you things to make your own decision and then take all of this stuff, which is resources, assets, time, effort, deliverables, and put them over here to mitigate the valley, which is another version of taking this and turning it into this, right? Because the more precipitous this fall, the harder it is to recover from. Yep. So I wanted to share that because it's a recurring theme, and you see like Laurel, who is brilliant, by the way. She has a couple Emmys, huge business, raving fans, all that stuff. She says my marketing strategies are getting better, more efficient just by studying the crypto strategy. Thanks to Wolfden. Because it's important to me, and I'm rattling this off because I fell behind by not pushing the button. It's important to me that you don't listen to these things and go, oh, I understand, and then fail to see us behaving that way, right? Everything we talk about, everything I share with you, you should be able to identify in our behavior. And I also believe that to be true for you. Everything you talk about, you should the people that are listening to you talk should be able to identify the things that you're saying in your own behavior. So think about this. This is another version of avoiding bad things, but emotionally especially. The more hypey your marketing, the harder your sales pitch, the more you pretend to be somebody you're not when you're dating somebody, right? The more you're trying to be what they want and create this excitement, the higher emotional peak you are creating. You are a countdown to doomsday, my friend. Right? So just think about, put more resources into, now here's the other thing. Well, you need hype so people can buy, right? You might think you need to be a certain way so that somebody wants to date you or be around you. Like, what does that say? That says you have shit you need to fix. If you don't think you're good enough, you either need to get better or love yourself more. But putting more resources into creating a higher emotional high is going to put you in the worst position ever, because if you're not that good at what you do, or you are good but you don't believe in yourself, what do you think that this valley is going to do to you? It is going to wreck you. And you did it to yourself. Pushing to create an emotional high in yourself or others is being an a-hole. Take these resources, right? Use as little as possible to get the outcome that you desire, and then put the rest of the resources here to mitigating the valley. Save some of the best parts of yourself for regarding your spouse for after the honeymoon. How about that? Right? Save some of the best, most surprising, amazing parts of your program until after they buy. Your best bonuses, put them after the purchase. This is sustainability. Putting all your resources into creating emotional high, you are hiding from something, you're putting yourself at risk, you're putting other people at risk. And even if this is what people do. Prospect is here. I create this huge emotional high with a massive promise, right? And then there's what goes up always comes back down. We know that. Then they're here, right? What we often do is go, I don't understand why they're complaining. Look at this trajectory. Look how much better off they are than when they started. Well, a-hole, you were not aware of what was going on. You weren't being very thoughtful. You actually put them at a place where what they're experiencing now is a downtrend. On average, yeah. Right? So the way that you mitigate this is you can tell them this is going to happen. That's called allegiance capital, but most people don't. So mitigating emotional valleys, in my opinion, is exponentially more effective over a long period of time, and I'll explain why in a minute. I'll add layers to this. Then creating emotional highs. Creating emotional highs is lazy, it's irresponsible, and it means you're hiding from something. You either don't trust yourself, you think you're not very good, some version of those things. Okay? The other one is just, and this is just evidence of, kind of walking the walk. I started planning Nicsmas. I told Dan the day before, I was like, I think I might do Nicsmas. I'm not really sure. I said last year was last year. I started planning it about 20 minutes before day one went live, which means a few things. One, there's a contact with reality. I'm only talking about the most recent things. I didn't sit down and plan any of this. Two, none of it's planned. So whatever's coming from me is just raw, real, how I feel at the time. I might say some of the wrong things, and that's okay, because that's what Nicsmas is about. I'm trying to help you understand that be yourself and don't be an a-hole, and you'll probably get much, much, much further. And in order to be yourself, you got to know yourself, right? In order to not be an a-hole, you got to know yourself. So if you're hyping, you're being an a-hole, I understand. That might be the thing that you are best at, and it might be the way you pay all your bills. And frankly, if you can hype, and you can say, yeah, I'm a hype machine, whatever happens to other people is not really my problem, then I actually don't think you're an a-hole. I mean, I don't agree with your method, but just being aware of the effect that you are causing, in my opinion, makes you not much of an a-hole. Being an a-hole is being ignorant, thinking you're helping people when you're hurting them, setting yourself up for failure and then complaining about it and blaming other people. That's what I consider an a-hole. If you hype people and you go, oh, man, those idiots are going to get wrecked. Well, I don't agree with you, and I probably want to stay far away with you, but you're not being as big of an a-hole as the person that is causing the same effect and trying to pretend like they're helping. That person's a bigger a-hole. They're more dangerous because they're unaware of the effect they are causing. Halftime, 6-word updates. Let's roll through some 6-word updates because these are fun. And we had a lot of really good ones. And I'm going to answer some questions. I'll go through 6-word updates and we'll answer questions. Let them watch. No selling required. This is my method. That is my method, is let them watch. Tell them what's going to happen. Let them watch. And if I'm wrong, then it's a good thing they didn't buy anything from me. And if I'm right, all I did was validate that they can trust me a little bit more. And over time, if everybody marketed that way, it would only be the people that can deliver left standing, right? So that's my preference, is to tell them what I think is going to happen, tell them how I think they're going to feel, and then let them watch. Time will either validate or invalidate me. If you're not willing to let time validate or invalidate you, what does that say about you? Love yourself more or get better at what you do. We all make our own misery. This is true. This is very true. Shifting gears, releasing brakes, applying case. I love it. Weighing decisions using case, not ECAS. How can one effectively define what are the one? I'll answer those questions later. Explore more options. I'm scrolling slow so you guys can read, because I think reading these things and hearing them from other people is really, really helpful. In a complex system, less is more. There's some good questions. I'm going to actually answer a lot of these questions in depth. Invert after 10 months, finally clicking. See? So I repeat myself a lot. A lot of people tell me that they don't like to watch my videos because I'm repetitive, and I don't care, because sometimes people go, hey, I've heard this 100 times. This time it makes sense, so it's a good thing I said 101 times. I don't care about the people that think they hear something, right? And they go, oh, I know this now because I heard it once. Those are not my kind of people. Those are not my kind of people. Good projects often unknowingly implode themselves, yes, and not a moon boy. That means that you're probably in crypto. Crypto's the worst. Crypto people blow themselves up all the time because they try to create higher emotional highs. That is the fastest way to kill your business, is create a peak that is so high that the valley cannot be recovered from. It's easy to be an asshole. Yes, it is. All right, so I'll come back and answer those questions. Quote of the day. I got 2 quotes of the day today. Typos, because I built these like 5 minutes before I go live. One of history's few iron laws is that luxuries tend to become necessities and to spawn new obligations. Luxuries tend to become necessities and spawn new obligations. You ever feel like your life would fall apart and you would miss out on everything and you would lose all your business and all your friends if you didn't check your email or your Facebook for 2 days. Luxuries tend to become necessities and spawn new obligations. And the second one is questions you cannot answer. Open loops are usually far better than answers you cannot question. Permanently closed loops that you refuse to challenge. Both of these are by Yuval Noah Harari, who is a brilliant thinker. He's a brilliant writer. I strongly recommend you read all of his books. He has 3 of them. Sapiens is probably the most popular of them. Okay? But this is framed this way. Say, questions you cannot answer are usually far better than answers you cannot question. Because answers you cannot question, right, you think of a tyrant. You think of tyranny. Hopefully. That's what I think of anyway. Do you know how often you are playing tyrant to yourself by trying to close loops and leaving them closed? Right? So again, you see how all these ways we put ourselves in bad positions. It is better to have an open loop and you are not sure how to close it. It's better to leave it open than to find an answer and just feel so good. Okay, that completes this narrative. I could tell myself that story. This is extreme politics. This is extreme religion, right? We do that to ourselves. But because we do it to ourselves, we don't recognize that there's like some tyranny going on, right? We hold on to this. It's not imposed upon us. So it's far better to have open loops than permanently closed ones. There are also 2 types of leadership tyrants. Yep, we'll get into that at a later date, right? So this is why Nicsmas was built this way. It was built this way because it's really important to me to keep a contact with reality. How the hell, to be as useful as possible to you guys, how could I have planned out 12 days and just plowed through it without reinventing it? It's already changed. I'm talking about something different this morning than I thought I would last night, because we have to be able to discern the most efficient thing based on what we want to accomplish. And what I'm trying to accomplish is I'm trying to be as helpful to all of you for the rest of the year, because then I'm going to disappear off the planet and only spend time with CCA students and network members and probably higher level Wolf Den members, right? So Nicsmas was built this way so I can maintain a contact with reality. I'm seeing real-time tweets. I'm asking people to do 6-word updates and respond on Twitter, so we have nice, concise thoughts. We don't have these huge run-on things that I can't grasp onto and try to figure out how to be helpful. It's run through Telegram announcement channel. I'm not sending you emails. I'm not letting you reply to any emails. I'm not checking my emails, because we started with an extreme, right? Like an extreme responsibility. If you want to be here, pay attention. If you don't, that's okay. If you don't know what's going on, you weren't paying attention. You can help each other figure it out, but you don't put it back on me because you weren't paying attention. Right? And it's aligned with my unique disposition. You saw I couldn't even push the button to get the YouTube live today. So, right, let's go back to one of history's few iron laws, is that luxuries tend to become necessities. Remember when it was really cool? You could have an autoresponder and you could send up mass emails to people. You know how confused it is that I don't have an email? Like, people are so confused I don't have an email list for Nicsmas this year. I don't respond to their emails. I don't email them the Zoom link. Because I don't want to. That's not my style. It's swimming upstream. How does that serve you? Well, it makes it easier for me to find the link. Not a grease slide. If you want things to be hand delivered to you, Nicsmas is not the place to be. The CCA is not the place to be. You want to plug and play cookie cutter strategy so that you don't have to become a better human, more effective human, more discerning human, define what you want, figure out what other people want. You don't want to do all that. I understand. It's a lot. That's fine. You don't have to. I don't want to send emails and build a freaking membership portal. Right? So we have to be very aware of our unique disposition. Nicsmas is getting 500, 600, 700 views. Even though I take them down and unlist them, we have almost all 8 spots for the CCA filled up, which I strongly recommend. No emails have gone out. There's no sales page up. So there's this like, but you need to do things this way or people won't buy stuff from you. And like, no, they will. They have. They will probably keep doing so. Because every one of you, me, every one of you, are going to be our best when we build things that are aligned with our unique disposition, when we understand our game, when we play our game, and that's going to be in your homework. Okay, I'm going to give you something to listen to and journal about in your homework. But that's why Nicsmas is built this way. Well, most programs do it this way. What the fuck does that have to do with my solvable problem? Serious question. What does what most programs do have to do with anything? So I'm sharing this with you because if you see, like, you might go, hey, I don't like this at all. This probably doesn't work. There's a handful of people that are already buying stuff, enrolling in CCA, reaching out to me, yada, yada, yada. And I hope it is evidence that things can be done differently than the way you have been told they need to be done. I'm just going live on YouTube because it's the easiest thing for me to set up. If there was an easier way, I would be doing that. Make sense? And I'm also better with dialogue, which is why I'm always changing the content in order to match the dialogue that's happening in our communities and stuff. So, Inception and Allegiance Capital. Inception and Allegiance Capital. These are just concepts I'm sharing with you here. Inception is the concept of proof. You become the proof. I don't have any testimonials. I might share some stuff, right? But in order for what I call inception or stealth influence to work, and this is also aligned with the performative utterance, right? And everything Nick does is a filter of sorts. That is correct. Inception, it means, I'll give you an example. We talked to a bunch of CPAs and accounting firms for a program that Dan and I ran a year or two ago, and sold them all over an email. Email, link, done. Because what we knew was the biggest objection they had is people will not spend. They have been taught, so you have to know your audience, right? They'd been taught that the only way to get people to spend a lot of money is on a phone call. So by design, I did not take any of their credit cards over a phone call, took it all via email. So then when we taught them the method, they said, no, but people will only pay. There's the only way anybody will spend more than 10 grand is over a phone call. And we could say, well, you paid 15. How'd you pay that? And they remember, I clicked an email link. They become the proof of the method themselves. They become their own case study. You don't show them case studies of other people that had similar results, right? So Nicsmas, what you're going to recognize if you look back and you look forward is you might go, I don't know if that's true, if that really works. And if you really think about it, you are actually in the middle of the system right now. You are, the fact that you are here watching, and how many hours have you watched? How many times have you watched a replay? You actually done any homework? I don't know. But if you have, you are the proof that you are the evidence of the things that I am talking about, because I am implementing the things that I'm actually talking about the things I'm implementing. I'm not talking about a thing and then changing my behavior. I'm actually talking about my behavior. Right? It's inception. It's where somebody goes, that won't work. And you can say, well, didn't it work on you? And they go, oh shit. Now they have experienced it themselves. Okay? That's why Nicsmas is built this way. People go, well, I don't have Telegram, and my clients don't have Telegram, and they don't use Twitter. I know that there's a handful, maybe 20 or 30 people that started a Twitter and opened a Telegram account just for Nicsmas. I know people did it just for the Wolf Den as well, and I know people that did it just for the CCA. So if they go, yeah, well, my clients won't. People don't use Telegram. Nobody's gonna open an account for updates. Well, didn't you? Okay, so that's inception. That should be built into everything that you do, in my opinion. Because if you are talking to people, or you are explaining this is how you communicate with people, or this is how you trade crypto, or this is how you do accounting, or whatever, and they're working closely with you, and they are not evidence, they themselves are not evidence of your claims, well, then something's wrong. If I sell you, hey, look, I can get you to sell $10,000 products without ever taking a phone call, and then I sell you over the phone. That is the opposite of inception. Sophisticated people are going to recognize that disconnect, that inconsistency, right? Let me show you. I can show you how to build a business without ever sending an email again. That's what my program is. No more emails. And you're reading this message in an email from that person. That's the opposite. Okay. And Allegiance Capital. Allegiance Capital is, Dan, I'll share this with you too, because I forgot about, I talk about this so much I forgot. People maybe haven't heard it. And it's in the comments here. People tell me all the time, hey, I'm just pointing out, these are the a-holes, and I do have friends and partners, and actually I don't have partners that do it, employees for sure. And they go, hey, look, you really, like, I don't mean to, but like, you got some typos in your emails, and like, it's really unprofessional. I don't think anybody's going to buy. Weird, because you bought yesterday off that same email or sales page, right? These are like these huge disconnects. And that kind of makes you an a-hole, saying nobody will buy this and not recognizing that you just bought it. Oh, these typos are going to be really off-putting. That's weird, because you gave me a bunch of money after reading it. Right? These are all things that make us a-holes over time. Dickin knows. Dickin knows what happens when, like, now, there's a fair argument to be made. If nobody buys anything and there's a bunch of typos, that might be a good argument. And then there's Allegiance Capital. And all Allegiance Capital is, and we've talked about this before, is explaining, I tell you guys this is what's coming. You're going to recognize, you're going to see me do things like this, and here's why. Right? And you might feel this way, and here's why. And I want you to journal. You're going to think this is juvenile, and you're not going to think it's important, but then it might hit you pretty hard. I tell you these things ahead of time. That's why I'm very repetitive and tend to talk more about what's coming, so that you are prepared to recognize it when it comes, right? And then you go, oh, wow, I was prepared for this. How did he know that was coming? And now I know what to do. It's not unexpected. Whereas what most people do is, after the fact, somebody would be like, hey, I journaled. Is it supposed to be hard? And like, oh yeah, this is why it's hard. And they explain away why things were what they were. It's not very effective to sit here and explain things that already happened. What we want to do, which I try to do in Nicsmas, and we teach in depth. I think we have a whole 2 weeks on Allegiance Capital in the CCA, is we need to tell people, hey, look, you're going to walk in a straight line, and then you're going to start thinking maybe you're lost, right? Just keep going, because in a mile, you're going to see a mailbox that looks like a walrus on the right. You're going to see that, and then you're going to know you're going the right way, all right? Now, you're going to be tired, but just know if you see that mailbox, you're in the right place. You just have to go a little bit further, blah, 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 blah. So that when they're walking, they go, I think I'm going the wrong way. And subconsciously, they're saying, Nick told me this would happen. That guy must be a freaking fortune teller. Must have a crystal ball. Oh, there's a walrus. There's a mailbox that looks like a walrus. Oh, good. I'm going the right way. You see how we're building in the ability for people to discern for themselves, recognize things for themselves, not explain, oh, you felt that way yesterday? Well, here's why. That's not super effective. But hey, tomorrow you might feel this way. Okay? And this is how it might feel, and these are some things you can do. We are now empowering people to recognize things, understand, prepare, but we're also building a lot of trust in that they're saying, oh, he said this would happen, it would happen. You don't build trust by explaining why mistakes happened in the past. You build trust by telling them, hey, mistakes might happen and you might feel this way, and that's totally normal. It's okay. Right? So heavy deal of allegiance capital. I told a bunch of people, sit down, figure out what you want. It's going to be way harder than you think, and your brain is going to try to resist it. And they probably said, whatever. It'll take me 5 minutes. I'll just sit down and write about what I want. And they realized really quick, wow, this is really hard, and my brain is trying to resist it. But they're able to recognize that because we planted the seed ahead of time telling them that might happen. That's allegiance capital. We go very, very deep into that in the CCA because it's so important. It's a way to mitigate that emotional valley. So that's why Nicsmas is built this way, and it's a real ethical FOMO. Real ethical FOMO. I already mentioned a little bit. I don't sell people, much to the chagrin of many of partners I've had. I do not hard sell people. I don't convince anybody of anything. I use inception and allegiance capital to plant the seeds about what's going to happen and what they should look for. And then I let time pass. And over time, if the things that I tell them, hey, look out for this, you may see this, this is what I think is going to happen. As it happens, they start to get fear of missing out on the next thing because time after time after time after time consistently delivered on what we told them to expect. Right? Now the FOMO is real and it's ethical, meaning they have over time watched for themselves. They did not listen to my words and blindly pull the trigger on a promise. They missed one thing, and then they decided not to buy something, and then they saw what everybody got after they bought. They said, shit, shouldn't have missed that. Maybe they missed it again, thinking it was a one-hit wonder, and then they miss it again, and then they miss it again, and then they miss it again. I have people that came into my world 10 years ago that are starting to buy things. They've been waiting for 10 years for us to drop the ball on something, blow up significantly. Now they're buying. I don't want to miss the next thing, but they're doing it at the rate which doesn't violate their own economic and personal principles because I'm not applying any external pressure on them. It's an internal pressure. They watch it, they go, shit, I can't believe I should have bought that. Oh, well. Then they see the next thing, and they're like, maybe they do, maybe they don't. If they don't, they're like, shit, now that I see what happened there, I wish I would have gotten on that. It's FOMO that comes from a place of already missing out, but consistently getting the evidence and building an internal buying pressure. An internal buying pressure comes from much more from, I understand what this means to me, and I understand what this means to me, and I want it. Okay. Open to Twitter just to follow Wolf Den. Yep, 2 weeks specifically on Allegiance Capital, and it really comes up every week. Yeah, I'm zooming through it. Allegiance capital is the single most powerful. If you want to be an effective human, in my opinion, no matter what you do, sales, marketing, you have a job, you're married, you have kids, right? Especially if you want to raise kids, I don't think there's a more powerful tool than allegiance capital. I don't. When you can tell your kids, hey, look, you're not ready to hear this yet, and you're not going to quite understand what I'm about to tell you, but you're going to see this. And when you do, that's okay. Okay, you're going to feel this way, but before you do anything, come talk to me. That, imagine being a teenager and knowing, I was told I would feel this, and I know what to do. So allegiance capital, in my opinion, most powerful tool to master, no matter what you do. So Nicsmas, again, I sell with real, like I just share what's going on year after year after year. People see our trajectory. My style is very much, so slow and boring. You're telling us to slow down. You're telling us to take a nap. You're telling us to leave space, but I'm in a hurry. And year after year after year, we make progress faster than, like, people can't even believe how fast it happens. And that's the appropriate rate of a complex system, right? So here's what happens next. And if you're in the wolf den, or you're in the network, or you were in the previous CCA, you'll recognize Allegiance Capital. How many times I said, hey, this is probably going to happen. You're going to feel this way. You don't think you're going to want to push these buttons, but when you see it, it's going to be really hard not to push these buttons. And you're like, I got self-control. And then it comes around. You're like, shit, he was right. I really want to push these buttons. That's how you build trust. Okay. Raising kids with the concept of Allegiance Capital is so much better than most of the methods of parent. I got it from Dr. Jeff Spencer. He does talk about it frequently. Just letting people know, especially children, you let them know this thing you can't conceive of is very likely to happen, and you're very likely to feel this way. That's normal. You're okay. When this happens, do this. All of a sudden, kids become extremely efficient as decision makers, right? If nothing else, just telling them something they cannot conceive of is going to happen, and giving them the power to recognize it when it happens instead of years later. You know how many people are dealing with shit when they're 25 that happened to them when they were 17, and they were never able to recognize that it was happening? So anyways, that's why Nicsmas is built this way. I promise, maybe not, I don't know, but historically, I've done things in like Nicsmas or whatever. 5 years later, somebody will message me and say, hey, 5 years ago, you said this thing. And today, that thing that you said to look out for, I recognized it. It's real ethical FOMO. Build trust, build authority, and just becomes. I don't want to miss it because of the evidence. If Elon Musk says, hey, I'm doing this new thing, you want to be an early investor? I'm going to go, yep. Don't care what it is. Love him or hate him. A bunch of people missed PayPal, a bunch of people missed Tesla, a bunch of people missed SpaceX. I'm not missing the next thing if I had an opportunity. So what happens next? Starting tomorrow, we're going to do first half, regular Nicsmas. Okay? Going easy today, give your brain a break. Regular Nicsmas, I'm going to introduce some concepts, but they're going to be concepts that really require discussion. And, hopefully you're sharing this with your spouse or your business partners or whatever, and you guys can discuss it. It doesn't have to be with me. The important thing is not that Nick is smart. The important thing is, hey, here's some things you may not be aware of. Be aware of them and discuss with somebody. Yourself, journal, right? Just lack of awareness makes you an a-hole. Okay, so regular Nicsmas, the second half. So we'd like a half hour, maybe 45 minutes of regular Nicsmas. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick a Zoom link to anybody that is in VIP. Let me tell you how to know if you're in VIP. You are in the Telegram group called Nicsmas Decentralized. I opened that up a while ago, and I let people in as VIPs. If you are in Nicsmas Decentralized, okay, find the group, turn on the announcements. You will also get this. This is Nicsmas Decentralized document. Okay. This is like a mini curriculum. Little mini curriculum here. We've already talked about a lot of this stuff, but you're just going to get structured. So you'll also get the replays of all 12 days at the end. You'll get them structured as kind of a reference manual. If you are in Nicsmas Decentralized, or if you have put down a deposit for the CCA program, okay? If you have put down a deposit for the CCA program, I will email you. Yes, I will email you. I don't want to, but I will. A link to the Nicsmas Decentralized group if you want to join. So we'll just do regular Nicsmas, And then for 15, 30, 45 minutes, however long it goes, we'll open up a Zoom and we'll just bullshit together. We'll just answer questions, workshop, talk about whatever comes up. And, I got some stuff to give away. I have stuff around Allegiance Capital and all that. All right, so that's how it's going to go moving forward starting tomorrow. So if you're in Nicsmas Decentralized, just turn your announcements on. We're going to go normal on YouTube because it's easy, and then I'll shoot you a Zoom link, and we'll hang out there. Okay, same time, 9 a.m. every day Pacific. If that changes, I'll let you know. So Nicsmas Decentralized and CCA students with a deposit. You already got your deposit done. If you're on the fence about CCA, I don't, me, I don't sell hard. The only reason I sell CCA a little bit harder is it's not entirely my program. I consider myself as much of a student of the program as a facilitator and instructor. I have a couple weeks where I teach, I do facilitate. Sometimes, Dan and I or Randy and I or all three of us will go back and forth and share perspectives. But it's not Nick teaching his methodology. It's an amalgamation of Randy Massengale, Dr. Jeff Spencer. It's primarily wrapped in Dan Nicholson's intellectual property, which is the certainty methodology. If you're on the fence about that, it is the single best program I have ever been a part of. Randy puts together phenomenal curriculum. He sits on the board of Seattle U. So it's built as a really strong curriculum, but it's unconventional in that it's got a lot of the Nicsmas concepts built in that it's built to match our unique disposition. It's built to put extreme responsibility on you and really, really turn you into a better human. How do I get into CCA is a question. The links in the description on this video, there's a CCA, there's a Telegram. If I don't get all 8 spots filled by day, 10 or 11 of Nicsmas, we'll put up a sales page and all that stuff, but I really don't think we're going to have to. So it's in the description of this YouTube video. And CCA will get a stronger endorsement from me than anything else. Bias? Sure. I will admit my biases. And then on Nicsmas Day, so on the 28th, going to do just to remind you to mark your calendars. In the morning, I'm going to have some friends come on, give away some gifts. So that's Tuesday the 28th. And then in the PM, we'll have another session. We'll have even more friends on. And if you're at Nicsmas 2020, you know the kind of friends that I like to bring. They're people you definitely want to hear from and probably know. And that, again, will be for Nicsmas Decentralized members. You cannot get Nicsmas Decentralized anymore. It opened. It closed. Again, if you're bummed out that you missed it, don't miss the next thing. That's how real life, real world ethical FOMO works. And we're going to hang out in, again, CCA deposits and Nicsmas Decentralized. Cool. So I'm going to give you your homework, and then I'm going to go through some questions. I'm just going to stream of consciousness over some questions. I think it'll be super valuable that's generally the most valuable part for me is not having the Zoom link open, is just listening to questions get answered. I'm going to send you a podcast interview. It's not very long. It's Dan Nicholson's podcast talking to Randy Massengale about playing your game. And there's a series of questions that I want you to ask. Listen to playing your game. I'll type this out, but just listen, okay? Take your own notes. Extreme responsibility. Do not abdicate it to me to send you the recap later. This is the game that we play here. Listen to playing your game, understand it, okay? And then journal. Is the way that I'm building my business aligned with playing my own game? And I think you'll know what I mean when you listen to the podcast. If not, why not? Right? I am a slow, thoughtful, methodical player. I want one leverage point. So my sport, you think about, listen to the podcast because this came from Dan and Randy. I'm just going to shorten it. You say, what sport or what hobby are you the most in flow? Like, where were you really in the zone? Now, football's my favorite sport, but that's not where I was in the zone. I wrestled growing up. I wrestled for Lake Stevens, Washington. They won like 13 state championships in a row. That's the sport where I was the most in flow, and my style was basically raise the floor, right? Don't make mistakes and look for the one opening. Can I make one move to end it all? I don't want to dick around and waste a bunch of energy, and that's not where I'm at my best. So if you watch Nicsmas and the places where I'm the best, video games is fine, hobbies, you have knitting. Where are you really in flow, and what is your style? Listen to the podcast, because this is not my intellectual property. I'm just sharing it with you guys. And you go, I'm at my best when I am conserving energy. I'm doing as little as possible. I'm not wasting energy on anything that matters. I'm not, as a wrestler, I'm not like taking shots left and right and flopping around, all that stuff. I'm just waiting for an opening to end it all. That's it. I just want to make one move and win, right? Next. Is my business built like that? And sometimes you look up like, no, I'm fucking rushing around. Like, my business is not aligned. It's not built in a way for me to play my game. Now, it's my business. I make the rules. It's my life. Why is my life not built in a way that is aligned with where I'm best playing my game? So really journal about what was your favorite hobby, what was your favorite sport, what was your style of play. I think Dan, I don't know if he's still here. Dan was a tall kid, and he's very much his basketball. He's the guy probably flying around the court, diving out of bounds to save a ball that I would just probably let go. And he might be taking the last shot, whether he should or not. And he shared that before. I don't know if it's on the podcast. So that's how his life and his business should be built. So journal about that. Like, are you actually in a position? And are you building? Because if you are building a business or a life or a trading strategy that is not you playing your game, you're being an a-hole. Well, you're not being an a-hole. The second you complain about the outcome, you're being an a-hole because you did it to yourself. Okay. So I'll send that over. It's called, you can go Rigging the Game Podcast. Naturally, I got typos. And it's probably near episode. Right here, episode 2. Playing your own game with Randy Massengale. Strongly recommend you listen to that. I'll put a link to it later. But again, don't wait on my link. Write it down. Go find it for yourself. Double check it's the right one. Like, learn how to make decisions. Don't just wait for people to send you things and click on it. That's how you get duped. You just wait around for people to tell you what to click on. All right. Let's look at some questions, and then we'll, I know there's some really good ones that came in here. And then tomorrow we'll do this live. This was a good one. Your body's a complex system. If system reliability diminishes with increased complexity, how does it apply to your body? Is it the body is made up of simplified? So there's a lot of simplified systems that account for bad things that could happen, relatively speaking. Is that accurate? Language is important. Language is important. What about the human body is reliable? It is very, very, very low reliability. Sure, we're probably going to stay alive. Like, I hope you're alive tomorrow. But do you blink at the same exact time every day and the same exact number every day? Do you get sick exactly when you expect to get sick? Right? This isn't about being healthy or unhealthy or better or worse. It's about reliable. Are we going, based on our input, can we reliably predict the output? Right? That's the point of a system, so that we can get a handle on the feedback loop and tighten the feedback loop and engineer the outcome we want. The human body is incredibly unreliable in that sense. You don't just like decide, oh, well, I'm not going to get sick on these 3 days, so I'm going to do these things. So we have very, very little control. Fortunately, it is a complex system, and it's relatively anti-fragile in that, you can get sick. It will create antibodies, and you're less likely to get sick. right? So bad things can have a positive outcome. It can make it more robust for later on. It's anti-fragility. But we're talking about reliability. Reliability, that exactly the outcome is exactly what we expect it to be at any given time. I don't think the human body qualifies as reliable under those, with that definition, right? So it is a complex system. It's got a ton of positive feedback loops. It's got a ton of negative feedback loops, and it has got countless years of evolution, and so it's just really important to, like, there's favorable outcome and there's reliable outcome, and those are different things, right? Something can be better, potentially better, but less reliable. We want to bias reliability so we have control, right? Like, one investing strategy is more reliable. The other one could potentially have more upside. But if we're betting our life on it, we probably want to go with the reliable one. So they're just different things. It is a complex system. Does it fall more to line with the inputs, aka healthy lifestyle and food, which creates unreliable? Nope. You're just confusing, and this is really, really important. That's why I'm spending time on this one for everybody. It's not just health. You are confusing what you consider a favorable outcome, upside, with reliability. Those are different things. Reliable simply means I know exactly what to. 100% reliability means I will get exactly what I expect to get all the time. That is not what the human body does at all. It's extremely unreliable. You can rely on that, you can ballpark how long somebody, like life expectancy, but even that's just a ballpark. Something that has to be ballparked like that and has 5 or 10 years one way or the other is not reliable. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Body's incredibly complex. It's incredibly impressive. Positive feedback loops, negative feedback loops, a little bit of anti-fragility, also some fragility. But, like exercise, you can actually stress your body to make it more robust. That doesn't make it more reliable. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll also look at the YouTube comments. But looking for questions here. Biggest takeaway. Yep. Open loops and feel the emotions. People frequently pretend to know things. You can drop questions in the YouTube chat as well. Stop lecturing pigeons how to fly. That must be somebody that watched Nicsmas 2020. No questions, huh? Outside of that one, which was a good one. It's really important. It's really important that we, in my opinion, remove the positionality, right? So when I say reliability, our brain automatically goes to what reliable should be, what outcome, what the outcome should be, and that's a mistake. It's, in my opinion, it is a mistake for us to determine that an outcome should be anything, right? Like, what is destructive to one religion could be productive to another. Who are we to decide which one it should be? So it's really it's tough, but we have to disconnect the concept of a reliable outcome from the way we think the world should be. Those are very, very different things. Now, you can think the world should be a certain way and trying to build a system to make it that way, and that system will have reliable or unreliable or some combination of components. But to think that objectively reliability means the way I think things should be, that makes you an a-hole, right? No questions in the. Let me go through the YouTube comments real quick because there's a whole bunch of them. Most of them are me. Came in when I thought I was talking. I thought I was live when I wasn't. Trust factor on this without the emotional hype is so valuable. Trusted advisor. Yeah. I think there's just something about how do I get into TCA? Answer that. For a given set of how do you determine the appropriate frequency of exposure? Yeah. It's definitely personal. So appropriate frequency of exposure. There's a few things to consider. One is, the example I use is like, look, if we're making a decision because an investment has, you're investing your money and it has 12% return on average with 10% volatility per annum or whatever, I can't imagine why it would be useful to look at it for more than once, honestly. So I only look at, my personal opinion is data, looking at data with curiosity only has downside. The only reason to look at data is to justify a decision. So if you know you're not going to change something, you know you're not going to modify your behavior, there is no upside to looking at the data. There is only downside. You can only experience negativity, right? And you've already decided you're not going to modify your behavior. So I believe I want everything tracked so that I have a trend when it is time to look at it. I do not look at anything if it's not going to modify my behavior. So I want to preference retention in my business for next year. What is a good frequency of exposure for the retention rate? I would do it. If you have historical data, you can figure out if they pay monthly, right? This is just, I could probably have a deeper conversation about this, but if they pay monthly, then my guess is they stay for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 4 months. It would probably make sense to look at that data monthly. Day-to-day is not going to do you any good. I can't imagine what good day-to-day would do for you, right? And we also don't really know the lag. Is there a lag indicator? Meaning like we won't even see the effects for 2 or 3 months after, because the thing that you implemented, the people coming in, like if your average retention is 4 months and you start doing something new when you're onboarding to increase retention, you wouldn't know the impact of that for at least 4 months, right? So I think it just depends on the situation. Because the people that came in onboarded, there's still 3-4 months of people that didn't experience this onboarding. So like that data, it doesn't tell you the efficacy of the change you made on the onboarding. So it's just kind of like, it's really custom to current situation, right? And current data. Remember, because in this case, you were saying we want to improve retention, right? So what data will help us figure out how to improve retention? That's the only data we're looking at. We're not looking at anything else right now. And then I would look at, this is what I would do personally. I would look at current retention rates historically. If you don't have them, then that's probably a good place to start. Dig them up. And if the average retention is 4 months, all we need to do is get them to 4.5, right? Or 5, but 4.5 is a relative improvement. But we wouldn't know the efficacy of an onboarding for 4 months. If we're not willing to wait 4 months, we might want to start closer to that 4-month mark and see if we can create some sort of upsell or experience that got them to 4.5, right? So just like Customers for Life, I would build it backwards because that'll shorten the feedback loop, if that makes sense. Right? So if you start at the beginning, if you change your sales process and your average retention is 4 months, you have to wait 4 months to discern the efficacy of that change. But if you can change something at the 4-month mark, you might be able to discern it immediately. And I would probably look at that weekly, maybe. Because there's a lot of personal preference stuff there. There's people, for example, for fitness, there's people that they will spin themselves out if they look at the scale every day. And there's people that can look at the scale every day and not give a shit. The former is a much higher risk to themselves for data exposure. So there's a little bit of personal in there. Some people handle data very, very well. Some people, if you've been in the market for a long time and you see Bitcoin go up and down 30%, you're like, Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things. If you've never been in the market and you see something go down 30%, it's the end of the world. So there's a little bit of like how vaccinated are you to data. Hope that makes sense. So I build, and you know this about me, because AdWord Nerds is Dan Barrett, the funniest man in marketing. You know that I build everything backwards, especially if you want to improve retention and referrals and raving fans, because it shortens the feedback loop. I don't want to wait. Like gauging the efficacy of a change made in your sales process. If you have 9 months of retention on average, you got to wait 9 months to figure out if that was useful or not. So I build everything backwards. I think you'd really tighten the feedback loop that way and probably have more frequent exposure, and it would be useful. It would actually inform, right? So last thing here, I'm just kind of brain dumping, and I hope it's useful to you guys, is if you change your sales process in order to increase retention from 4 months to 5 months, you've also, now you're being an a-hole if you look at the data every day, because you know for a fact you won't know. You will not be able to discern definitively for 4.5 months whether or not it was effective. Right? So it's also like any more frequently than 4 months is kind of silly. There's nothing we can do with it. And if we can't do anything with it, there's only downside to being exposed to that data. And that downside is mostly emotional. People don't handle numbers well. So it also just depends on how you decide to build it. Probably want a rolling average. I'm a big fan of the rolling average. So hopefully that answers one takeaway from Nicsmas 2020. Our kids are watching. Damn right. Can you discuss ways to help someone clarify what they want? I will give you one way. It's super scientific and advanced, so get your notepad ready. Have a conversation with death. That's scientific, right? Dan Nicholson says, "Got to understand rhythms," but just go back to yesterday. We talked about rhythms, or the day before that. Have a conversation with death. Otherwise, there's a million ways. And the reason, I'll tell you what I mean by that, but the reason that I don't say here's a method for finding out what you want is, one, I don't know of one that doesn't kind of put these like blinders or put you in a box and steer you towards something maybe that you think you should want, right? So a lot of like people be like, it's got to be quantifiable, it's got to be this, got to be this, got to be this. And maybe what we want is quantifiable, but because we don't know how to quantify it, then it doesn't fit in the box. And so we're not really defining what we want, we're defining something we know how to quantify. Right, so hopefully that makes sense. It's really like, what do you want? We can find a way to quantify it if we need to. But I find if I give people strict parameters, they actually try to find things that fit the parameters so they can close the loop and feel good about it, right? Like they want to fit square peg, square hole. And it becomes, again, the same thing they've been chasing. Something they can define, right? But in order to complete the task of getting clear on what they want, they bias something they know how to quantify over what they really want and then figuring out how to quantify it, right? So it's more chasing your tail. Give me a 5-step process to determine what I want. Here's the same fucking thing, right? So my suggestion is a conversation with death. If Adam met Adam on his deathbed in what I hope is 80, 90, 100 years from now, what would matter? Would they really say, man, I really wish I spent more time trading crypto? You know, probably not. Would they really say, man, I'm just bummed I never got that Stripe screenshot of $1 million. I never got my 2 Comma Club award. Maybe if I met Nick on his deathbed, he wouldn't give a shit about that. I know that. So sometimes it's about lining out all the things that you are chasing, having a conversation with death and realizing that you on your deathbed would think that you are ridiculous for chasing these things. And then I would ask my series of questions, why? Why do I think the 2 Comma Club award is so important? Like, what does it represent to me? And you just journal and talk and like, otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of working so hard to run around in circles? I knew I liked you immediately. I was the wrestling. It was the wrestling vibe. Yeah. So hopefully that's useful. You feel that's okay. You'll feel this, and that's okay. That's one of the most. Here's I'll give you guys a secret about. Let me go back to Allegiance Capital and Inception. Hopefully, you have to hear my voice. I don't do this very well in writing. I say a lot of things, right? I might get on a roll and be like, well, you see, because this, and you feel this way, and that's okay, because if you feel that way, you just do this, and there's nothing wrong with it, yada, yada, yada. And I'll just go and talk and whatever. That's called, I didn't know this at the time. I've done it forever, but I didn't know there's a name for it. It's called a flash rule. What that does is no matter what you are talking about, it doesn't matter what is said. I say words. I could be like, well, it doesn't matter because what goes up always comes back down. And we know that if we wait till it comes down, we'll have another entry. And if we have another entry, it's very likely to come back up because boom, 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 all this technical stuff. It's the way that it's said from a place of inception and a place of allegiance capital that the words that are said. What is heard? Okay, this is the B message. You're okay. Everything's going to be fine. I've seen this 1,000 times. I know exactly what to do. I know what to expect. And as long as you pay attention and you hang out with us, you're going to get to where you want to go. I don't have to say those words for you to hear that message. That's what Allegiance Capital does for over years and years and years. It tells your spouse, it tells your kids, it tells your partners, it tells the people that pay attention, you're okay. I've seen this 1,000 times. I know you're scared, but you're going to be fine because I know exactly what to do. As long as you're with us, you are going to get to where you want to be. Right? And because it was never said, because they heard it, it's their idea. That's why Allegiance Capital is so powerful, in my opinion. Cool. What else we got? I got a couple more minutes. I will hang out. Champion's Perfect Day is awesome. Cool. So conversation with death. It's very hard to figure out what you want. It's very hard to be honest about what you want. Here's why. If you come from, and this is no judgment, and I'm not taking a position at all. If you come from a family that practices a certain religion, any religion, there's going to be this subconscious feeling that you should want something other than what you do. You shouldn't want what you want. You should want something else. If you come from a certain political party, right? If you come from an upbringing that takes any position, right? There's going to be a dissonance between what you want and what you think is appropriate to want and what other people told you should want. And you got to get really clear. You got to get really, really clear because you should never feel guilty about what you want. So just look for that. Right? You're going to go, oh, I want this, but I can't say that out loud. Oh my God, I'd be embarrassed if I said that out loud. That would be so selfish and that's so against everything I stand for. Well, if it's what you want, it's not against everything you stand for. Right? You don't actually stand for what you think you stand for. I'm not saying you should stand for it. I'm saying it's okay. It's okay to tell everything else to F off at some level. Right? I should stand for this, this, and this. Like, no. Somebody else sold you on that. If you believe that you should stand for anything that doesn't come directly from you, somebody else sold you on it. You were duped. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to believe. It just might not be the thing you believe. I can believe one thing, and you can believe a diametrically opposed thing, and we can both be good humans. Okay, so wrestle with that. Tomorrow we'll get back on schedule. We're going to have Q&A. I'm going to send you over this podcast, CCA enrollment. I think it's the best program on the planet. I participate in it. Open discussion tomorrow. It will be Zoom. It'll be first half will be YouTube. Second half will be Zoom. And of course, have Nicsmas on your calendar. I'm going to bring a lot of friends. We're going to have a lot of fun. Appreciate all of you.